welcome back to my channel. I'm Cynthia, and this is a place where we believe in people, in purpose, and in poetry. So today, I'm here to talk to you all about how to write a spoken word poem as another installation in my spoken word series for National Poetry Month. We'll talk a little bit about the conception of an idea and sort of how to grow it into a poem. So if you're interested in a few tips about how to write like your favorite spoken word poet, stay tuned and hit the subscribe button down below. So the first thing you need to do is find what inspires you, or the thing that comes to mind when you think about writing. For many poets, we write what inspires us daily or as an idea comes to us, but I recognize that everyone has a different writing process. Thing is, you might actually be inclined to go out and find something that inspires you, especially if you're dealing with writer's block or if an idea isn't coming to you to write about. For some people, the ideas are really dramatic and broad, like love and like life. But for others, these ideas are really specific and personal, like how my mother makes her jollof rice, for example, or how a teacher that I had in high school inspired me to become a better student. Everyone is inspired by a different idea, but overall it's about finding the thing that compels you and excites you to want to learn more. So the next thing to do after finding your big idea would be to actually write it down, to take part in a brainstorming activity by creating a list of things that inspire you, or a list of things that the poem could potentially be about. Write down anything that comes to mind. Look around you, write down anything that you see. It could be a tree outside or something that you see in your bedroom. Whatever you do, play on your senses. You would be surprised by some of the things that actually arise in the list simply because you were intentional and thought critically about the thing that you wanted to write about. From there, draw a few words from the list that are sort of creating a pattern or telling a story. The topic or the story you choose is entirely up to you. Again, it could be really broad like love or life, but it could also be really specific like something that has happened to you or is happening to you in your personal journey. My favorite thing about poetry actually is the fact that it's generally based on one main idea, but there's a bunch of little ideas coming together to support the main idea and to tell the story. The challenge specifically in writing spoken word poetry is to include relatable and metaphoric language so that your audience can enjoy the journey with you. Oftentimes, I know a poem is going to be good the minute the poet opens up their mouth to speak, as well as how much the poet engages the audience throughout the piece with their metaphors. So what really helps here is writing a really great opening line, and then obviously implementing more metaphor use throughout the piece. But that opening line is what first engages and then keeps your audience throughout the rest of the poem. So what's next here is continuing with that intentionality, gathering your thoughts on the main topic that you choose, and then exploring that topic more intimately. The challenge here is in how well you tell the story, but what kind of story, how much of the story you share, and why you're telling this particular story is entirely up to you. Now here's where things actually get really interesting.
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret that nobody knows about.
There is a huge misconception about having a poem finalized and fully edited before you begin memorizing and practicing how the poem is supposed to sound aloud.
No. No. You can say no. You can say no.
Your performance skills begin during the writing process. So I've always thought this was weird when it comes to my particular writing process, but I usually recite words aloud. It's almost like the sound of the words need to convince me of their greatness before they're worthy enough to go down on paper. So I'd suggest reciting the words aloud as you're writing so that you could find the musicality and the rhythm in the words, especially because it's a spoken word poem. So after writing, editing, moving some words around until you're satisfied, you're probably wondering when a poem is finished or if it's ever really finished. And I'd say that you have the power to make that decision. If it feels right, chances are it's probably right. Now don't get me wrong, there are poems that are still being written, poems that I haven't even lived yet. But just because the poem comes to an end on the page doesn't mean that it ends. As long as it exists outside of you, whether it be on the page or in your mouth, it lives forever. So I hope you feel empowered to write and speak your poems aloud. There's a special kind of magic that comes along with sound and poetry. Tune in next week for some helpful advice about how to perform the poem that you've actually written out loud. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and comment down below. Let me know if you all have some helpful advice and tips about how to write a spoken word poem. I'll see you in my next video.